Morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. Thanks for watching. You're watching dcbornrob Erasing Borders. I'm DC Rob. This is the latest update for two separate stories, both of which I reported on. One, I think, an update a couple of months ago, and it happened 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and then one about 3 years ago. You'll know the stories once I get into it, but this is the latest update as far as the judicial proceedings, meaning who else got arrested. The second of two Canadians who allegedly kidnapped and tortured a woman in Medellin have been captured. In November 2023, two Canadians reportedly kidnapped and tortured a woman in Medellin. The other alleged perpetrator was captured last January. If you don't recall, I ran both of these stories prior, but let me give you an update right quick. A year after the brutal attack, one of the responsible was arrested. In 2023, a domestic worker hired to clean an apartment in the exclusive El Poblado sector was the victim of torture and beatings by two Canadian citizens. The foreigners, without evidence, accused her of stealing a ring and money, unleashing an episode of violence that marked her life. The woman, who had been hired through a property rental platform, recounted how her workday turned into a nightmare. The level of torture suffered by the employee kidnapped by Canadians in Medellin is revealed. According to the prosecution and the victim's accounts, the two men began to beat her mercilessly as soon as the argument began. They covered my mouth with a bag. They blew my mouth open with the force with which they pushed the bag into my mouth, and I started to vomit. One of them, the dark-skinned one, hit me in the ribs and abdomen. He punched me, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Despite the employee's attempts to explain that she had not taken anything, the Canadians continued to hit her. According to the story, the attackers had no qualms about hitting her in the abdomen, even knowing that she had recently undergone thoracic surgery. And when she desperately tried to flee, she was intercepted and dragged back to the apartment. Foreigner who kidnapped and tortured employee in Medellin is discovered finally. The detainee, identified as Raymond Arthur Jr., was brought before the court, where he was charged with the crimes of torture, aggravated kidnapping, and theft. During the arraignment hearing, more details of the brutality of the case became known. According to the case file, the torture lasted for about 2 hours. The woman recalled that she had to scream in pain. One of the Canadians told her, quote, "You have to die," unquote. Furthermore, it became clear that the theft allegations were unfounded. At the hearing, it was revealed that the attackers claimed that the ring they were looking for was in a room that the victim had not even entered. Okay, so there you go. Let's jump into the story right away. The military walla of the Abur Valley reported this Tuesday the arrest by court order of the Canadian Raymond Truong, who was believed to have been one of the men responsible for kidnapping and torturing a woman who provided cleaning services in an apartment used as an Airbnb in El Poblado in November 2023. According to the prosecutor's office investigation, the victim was allegedly held against her will by the defendant, who was staying at the property, beaten to obtain information on the location of a ring and cash, which were allegedly lost at the property, and finally, her cell phone was stolen. The incident only became known 6 months after it occurred in mid-2024, after media pressure exposed the negligence of the prosecutor's office and the woman's secretariat, which, as of May 2024, had made no progress in the case or provided the women with adequate support, despite evidence such as videos and the woman's serious injuries. The 42-year-old woman's testimony reflects the abhorrent attack she suffered. She said Truong and another foreigner named Raymond Arthur JR Cornish forced her into a room, calling her a thief, an accusation they had made against her on previous occasions. Once there, the men, according to the victim, smothered her with a pillowcase and brutally beat her all over her body for an hour and a half. According to the woman, the way they tried to suffocate her with the pillowcase, it was so severe that they severely smashed her mouth. Arthur Jr. Cornish, the other suspect, was captured in January of this year and is facing charges of aggravated kidnapping, torture, and aggravated robbery, for which Truong will also be accountable. Upon learning of the incident, the owner of the apartment involved provided videos showing that both men frequently brought women into their apartment, corroborating that the housekeeper wasn't the only one staying there. The woman suffered injuries to her face, abdomen, and extremities. She was placed on sick leave for 15 days at the time, and despite her fear and anxiety, she had to continue working. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I showed both pictures, one blurred, one not. I found a non-blurred picture on the Fiscalia's website, which means it is public. Again, I show you what they show us. So if they blurred, I show it blurred. If they don't, I show it not. But now, knowing that I can go to the Fiscalia's website, especially for you sickos, because the thought of a sicko watching my videos and having any possible benefit out of it makes me even more ill. So know this. If I find the pictures on the Fiscalia's website, I will show them. Let's jump into the story right away. And again, both of these stories I've covered in the past. So this is one of the most cinematic crimes by far that I have video of. If you've been with me for any period of time, it's going on 6 years now. I've had a hell of a lot of videos with some crazy stuff going on. This right here was something out of a movie scene, a robbery of a gold infirmary or whatever they call it, where they make and mold and melt the gold down into ingots. I think they stole a couple of ingots, but let's just jump into the story. But let me give you a recap of it right away. So here's the update story. This is an update on the perpetrators. I apologize ahead of time for any mispronunciations. It's a lot of Hispanic names, and I know one after another, I'm going to make some mistakes. So apologies. A judge sentenced Henry Andres Velez Correa and Carlos Mario Artuerto, members of the criminal group that robbed the gold smelting company in the El Poblado neighborhood in Medellin on November 4th, 2021, to 22 years and 6 months in prison. Several armed men used a dump truck equipped with a battering ram to knock down the door of the building where the gold smelting company operated. During their escape, they fired indiscriminately, injuring 2 patrol officers and a minor. According to the prosecutor's office, in the violent attack, they intimidated and detained the security guard, stripping him of his service weapon, a communications radio, and a bulletproof vest. The reaction of the national police units precipitated the escape of the criminals, who managed to steal 2 ingots valued at more than 550 million pesos and several gold samples. The defendants were convicted of attempted murder, aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping, illegal possession of firearms for personal use, and those reserved for armed forces, trademark forgery, and aggravated personnel injury. The sentence was finalized as neither party filed an appeal. Carlos Horacio Manco Usuga and Javier Ovani Mendez Velasquez were sentenced to 17 years in prison for the same offenses. Alberto Antonio Bacatar Rendon, the person who impersonated a Bejo traffic officer, was sentenced to 17 years and 6 months in prison. Leonardo de Jesus Tuberquea Zapata was also sentenced to 11 years in prison for illegal possession of weapons for the exclusive use of the armed forces. In addition, Hernando Antonio Paniagua, Johan Gerardo Sierra Arango, and Johan Jaro Agudelo Ocampo were defeated in court and sentenced to 27 years and 8 months in prison. It is very difficult to get updates on these stories, so this is a blessing to see 2 come our way, especially 2 big cases that I covered. So anytime you see something, an update that you think that I've done a video on, and now there's an update, especially as far as the judicial part and the sentencing, please let me know. dcbornrobgroup@gmail.com, dcbornrobgroup@gmail.com. Remember, if you're going to Medellin, Colombia, get your smile right. See my dentist, Dr. Carlos Maury. A little blurb coming up in a second. His information is in the description of all my videos, as well as tours and airport pickups and drop-offs. Use my guy Andres at Nomad Travel. You are up to date with the latest news out of Medellin, Colombia, and Colombia as a whole. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to travel, but travel safe.
You like this video? If you did, make sure you go down and hit subscribe You definitely like. It helps that YouTube algorithm. You know what I'm talking about? See what I'm saying?
So hey girl, thanks for coming by my place.
No worries. You mind if our girlfriend can come by with us?
Hell no. This is why I watch DC Rob.
Kini-excited, dili na mag-online. Kung sabay dugayan, chika babes kay nasulan. Idol ipadulan, ako ang padulan. Para may lumluman, dili-dili na tuluman. Hoy, shock pa, makalok-kaloka. Si Bona sexy, lawas murag Coca-Cola. Ang kanyag ni mo sa akong kalibutan nga saag. Wala ko ikatubag, ikaw ra kong matawag. Murag kagabun sa kabugnaw sa taas. Sa imong paghawas, lawas ni mo lapas. Sinut walay gas-gas, ako amo baspas.
Headed to Medellin, Colombia? See my guy Andres with Nomad Travel for safe airport pickups and drop-offs and tours. Contact information in the description below.